Hello, and welcome back to Mellohi, a DSMP podcast. This is episode 15, and today we'll be discussing fan theories and speculation, the lore drought, and Wilbur Soot. As always, we refer to the characters by name and specify when we're talking about the writers, and we also try to focus more on analysis. Okay, so today I think we wanted to talk about speculations and headcanons and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. I think a good place to start would be definitions, because people don't use words right.
A headcanon is something that it does not directly contradict the text and is unlikely to ever directly contradict the text.
Yeah. So it's typically something small, like saying Filza has back problems because he's dragging his wings around, but that's never going to come up in canon.
Or you see it a lot like in podcasts where people have different headcanons for character appearances if they haven't been mentioned or given much details.
Yep.
And honestly, I think a good bit of fandom is the problem of muddling up the idea of a headcanon and an AU, because you have a headcanon that drastically changes one of the characters or something that happened in canon, or the implications of it. That's less of a headcanon.
That's
and
just
more of an AU because it directly alters canon.
Yeah. So, if you have an elaborate backstory with world building that's never ever going to come up in canon, you have yourself a personal alternate universe that you can go ahead and play around with, but don't call that a headcanon.
Speculation where you can have a specific idea of, for instance, why a character did a certain thing.
Yeah.
But unlike a headcanon, which is just an idea you think is cool or interesting, it's something that you have some sort of evidence for. Like you say, well, this is how this character acted another time in the past because of this, so I'm thinking that the reason they acted the same way is probably because of the same reason.
Yeah. I feel like headcanons also tend to have some sort of grounding within canon text, because with the whole Filza has back problems, well, we know that it's been confirmed that one of his wings was destroyed, or destroyed during the explosion at November 16th, so he has one wing that he can't use, so he's probably been, maybe he might have trouble folding it, so maybe he's been dragging that wing around, and if he's got something heavy on his back and it's not positioned properly, he might have back pain or problems because of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that is what I would consider a headcanon.
I feel like you can also get
a lot of people have hybrid headcanons as well.
Yeah, I was about to say, you can almost get into it wouldn't be an AU because people's hybrid canons don't affect the plot really.
Don't affect canon.
Yeah, so you can be Topo is a goat hybrid,
Topo's part goat.
Slat was a ram hybrid, Puffy's a sheep, Quacky has duck wings. Those don't really affect anything at all.
Yeah.
You can just do whatever you want with them. Have fun. You can make people will make Wilbur I don't know. They'll make him part I guess anteater.
Part zombie.
People make him part anteater because Wilbur Sip, the content creator, was I hate anteaters. So I've seen that. And that's pretty funny.
One that I've seen that I love is that his mother was a fridge, so he can open up his chest and there's space inside where he can keep things to keep them cool.
That's pretty cool.
Because he's half fridge.
That's amazing.
I think that's just hilarious.
He's hey, you want a cold one? He just opens up the compartment and just hands it to someone. God.
Yeah. I couldn't find an internet definition of what a theory is by fandom standards, but the closest one I found is actually the scientific what a theory means in scientific terms, which is an explanation for something that occurs.
Yeah.
Basically.
I think
with evidence to back it.
I think it can also be yeah, that makes sense. But there's also a sense of a experiment, you hypothesize what will happen.
Well, that's a hypothesis,
when you begin an experiment. So that's more what we would generally see as theories, which is trying to predict what comes next in a story. Although theories can also be about things that have already happened.
That's the thing, though. When you search up literature theory, or the definition of theory in literature, you get something completely different and has no relevancy into what most people would think of when they hear the word theory. But when you search up for the scientific definition, it's let me find it.
Fandom theories are basically taking the unknown things about a text, like what will happen in the next installment, what happened in certain unknown parts, or the identity of a character, stuff like that, and trying to come up with an answer for that based both on like the rhythm of the story, essentially, what makes sense in a storytelling sense, and also the factual information that is available in the story. So like trying to figure out who the killer is in a murder mystery, you come up with a theory.
That's a prediction, though. If you're predicting what's going to happen in the future, well, a theory is. So the scientific definition would be a well-substantiated explanation of some aspect of the natural world that can incorporate facts, laws, inferences, and tested hypotheses. And and that's the closest definition I could find, like official definition for what people do in the fandom, which is they come up with an explanation that it tries to piece together and explain what's happening within the story. But if you're talking about trying to predict a murderer, that's more of a prediction than a theory, right?
But you're also trying to understand what happened during the murder, which happened previously.
Again, that's a prediction. You're coming up with an explanation, sure, but it's also like your explanation includes a prediction in it. See, this is why I hate fandom definitions, because no one can settle on this one solid thing, right? So I find if you're predicting if you're thinking about what's going to happen in the future, I could call that a prediction. But if you
have a theory about like something in like a show or something, your general assumption is that it's going to be revealed at some point in the future of the story. So it is both a theory and a prediction.
Yeah.
You're both theorizing that something happened or something is true, but also predicting that will be revealed later in the story.
That's fair. I hate fandom definitions. It's frustrating. Because everyone has their own opinion on what is and what isn't something.
Yeah.
And there's never like anywhere you can go to find a solid definition, because those don't exist.
I just don't worry about the definition at some point, because I'm like, you just get into too much like no one's ever gonna agree. So like
no one's ever gonna agree.
And it's like the apologist versus sympathizer thing.
No one's ever gonna agree on that.
But I remember like what they that comes from like some random person's Discord screenshot, like the definitions that the Dream SMP fandom apparently uses.
Yeah.
Instead of, and like you argue with someone, they'll be like, "Oh, you should use the word sympathizer instead if you don't agree with the character Dream's actions." And I'm like, I don't agree with his actions. That's the definition of a sympathizer. If I was a sympathizer for him, that would mean that I think the things he did is good. I don't.
It's people with like.
I'm an apologist because I defend his character, but I do not defend a large chunk of his actions.
Yeah.
See, the funny thing is that again,
and then they go and they like no one goes up to like character Tommy apologist and says, "Oh, you support animal abuse," and no one goes up to like character Wilbur apologist and say, "Oh, you support political corruption." You know?
Yeah, it's annoying because even you're not even using, if you use sympathizer, you're not even using the word right, because sympathizer means to like agree with an ideal, not necessarily a person, right?
Yeah.
So like you can't. Is C Tommy an ideal? Is C Wilbur an ideal? Is C Dream an ideal? They might have ideals, but they're not. They themselves aren't ideals.
I mean, considering the fact that they're fictional characters, I suppose you could interpret it that way. I don't know.
But it'd be kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's mostly just people like having like, you know, someone had a lot of like clout in like the fandom circle, and then they like had a take and it just took off, unfortunately. and then we're all stuck with it.
And
Um,
I hate it when that happens. And here we go to the definition for fanon, which is fan-made fiction. But it's fan-made fiction that is so widely accepted among fans that people who are just coming into the media will actually think it's canon.
Yeah. Fanonization.
Like that Danny Phantom
SBI
character
Family
that doesn't
Dynamic
exist.
fanon my beloved.
Yeah, fanon's very
Ugh.
like, it's very much like, especially in this fandom, because most people are going to start with fanfiction to get into the Dream SMP because it's so daunting to get into like all the streams. And that's
why people
not
like Finding
good.
Joy are so good, because they can give like
Facts.
reliable sources, or like say like here's a link to like a
This or
recap of
that.
the day with VOD links to everything that happened, everything that was streamed on that day. You can go and check it yourself
Yeah, and then people like,
instead of just relying on what other people have told you, and because their memory might be flawed.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then like I've
my memory
oh
is
my
very
God.
flawed.
The worst ones I've seen are people who like have seen the streams, write fanfiction, and then for some reason have it in their head that like every fanfiction is meant to adhere
Their
to
fanfiction
canon.
is canon.
And I'm like, no, none of them. Like, once you're writing fanfiction, you have departed from canon. You can get close, but you are making your own like, you know, interpretation. Like, no matter how close it gets, people just for some reason will just arrive to like AO3 and be like, all right, if they say this in this fic, I'm gonna leave a comment being like, how it doesn't make any sense. I'm like,
If
what are you
you don't
doing?
like it, don't read it.
It's like, just click out, just leave. Like, I don't get it. It's strange. I'm like, other fandoms don't do that. Like, nobody goes in to like the Marvel fics and is like Loki would never do this. Oh my god. Like, or like freaking like Disney, they'll be like,
Like
Maleficent
the
would
point
never.
of fan fiction is that it diverges
From canon.
Yeah.
because it's a different writer's interpretation of it than the original.
Yeah, it's because you're not the writer. Like, you could write the most beautiful introspection for character Jack Manifold, but no matter how beautiful it is, and how much it seems like it is what is truly going through Jack Manifold's head, it is not actually.
It's not canon.
Yeah, it's not actually what's happening. And people like, I don't know if it's because they like didn't like read their assigned readings in literature class, or they didn't like really learn.
It's always so
I don't
funny.
know.
It's always so funny to me when people go like talk about like people and it's like, you know, like in that group chat where it's like Discord and they're like, oh, these people clearly failed like literature class or English class, because like I'm kind of failing English class because I am bad at poetry analysis.
Oh, like, it's like you can fail a class but still like
yeah.
like put your all into like trying to understand it, as long as you're sitting there and trying to come at it from like a view of like
Honestly, I think a lot of my analysis skills probably come more from history class
yeah, history
than
is
from English class.
its own version of writing. So yeah,
Because I know that other places probably have different ones, but at least where I'm from, there's a lot of focus in history class on basically looking at every side, looking at why people did things, and like why there was a general opinion of something,
yeah,
and looking at also at bias. Like, even when you're just like 12, 13 in like your first proper history class, and you do stuff like your first year of proper history class, and you do stuff like you look at political cartoons from the First World War, and you have to go and look at them and say like, this is the bias that this person was writing with, that made this cartoon with.
yeah,
This is what they're trying to depict, and this is what it shows about the opinions and atmosphere in this country at that time, and how most people, the general opinion was about World War One.
yeah. It's like a collection of like skills you build up basically, like, and you don't have to like get an A+, or you don't even have to pass class. You don't even have to get a diploma, like to like learn to like use this skill of analysis. It's just that
I've actually heard that a lot of people, at least where I'm from, who take history and do well in it, in the Leaving Cert, actually go on to do law because of the skills they learned from history.
yeah. Damn. Yeah, no, you can like I don't know, people like it's weird to like try to figure out why like some people's mindsets are what they are, like why they don't seem to try to interpret things from both sides, or like obviously there are some issues that are like more fact, like more like ingrained in stone, like that hurts people, but like there's other things that like require you to sit down and be like, hold on, before I make a hot take on Twitter, what am I trying to say? Like, will it be productive? Will it hurt people? Will it help people? Does it even matter? Is it even an opinion people need to see? And I think people forget that, like...
I think it's actually like a major problem with sort of like online activism.
Yeah.
At the moment is people just seeing somebody say, this thing is bad. And then they just accept it. But they don't think critically about it and understand why the thing is bad. So when they see something that is similar in appearance to the thing that is actually bad, they assume it's bad as well because they haven't learned why the first thing is actually bad.
Yeah, that's why like...
So they don't have a proper understanding of how it causes harm.
Yeah.
And the best way I found to sort of stop yourself from doing this yourself is look at a thing, and even if your first instinct is, oh, that's terrible, think about what harm does this actually do? Like, what harm can this actually cause? Who does it cause harm to? What are the people it causes harm or supposedly causes harm to? What are their feelings on it? And is there a way for this to exist without causing harm, or will it always cause harm no matter what?
Yeah, and there's a level of like looking into history as well. Like, no one ever links like any sort of like history, like, or like hard, like, you know, like documents from people. I'm like, bro, just go find a link of like someone who wrote a book. You can find free PDFs. People will do that crap all the time. They'll rip PDFs and they're free for you to access. You can literally just link it, and like people can go and read it and make their own interpretation, but nobody ever does it. And I'm like, why not?
Yeah. I find like the best way to deal with that kind of discourse is to have the source material at the ready, be able to find and see the source material, be able to read it, form your own opinions, because
like to get back to DSMP, I've seen like a few analysts who were like talking about something, someone was like telling them, oh, you should watch the VODs,
Yeah.
you should watch the clips, and I especially saw this person who's like, people keep telling me to go back and watch the VODs, and then when I do, I just find more stuff that supports
yours.
my interpretation.
Yeah.
It's an Apple moment.
Yeah, like a recent one, they were talking about how Wilbur was planning to blow up the festival and kill people and kill his friends, and someone else pointed out that he might not have actually meant to do it,
and then he says that he did.
To scare people. And then Apple found that in the whole alignment chart thing, writer Wilbur had written that character Wilbur was willing to kill his friends.
Yeah.
And like,
that's how that scene read.
With that whole alignment chart, the only one I trust is, the only part of that thing I trust is what writer Wilbur says about character Wilbur.
Yeah, because
that was the only part of that alignment chart that I trust.
Because it's his own character, yeah. No, and like I remember that's one of the VODs I've actually watched multiple times, is when he's like sitting in the room and it's like Backety and Tommy trying to be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, and it really was like, if he believes that blowing it up and then killing them too would make it better, then like that's just what he thought. Like, people are like, he would never hurt them, but I'm like, bro, if he thinks that will help them, then why wouldn't he do it?
So, any guys got any predictions on what's gonna happen next?
I think it would be really funny if Dream and Techno just break out of the prison without Philza even reading the will, and they just show up on his doorstep one day and say, and it's like, Techno's like, why do you not read my will? And Philza's like, we're clearly not dead, are you?
Like,
that would be, oh god, that would be so funny.
I genuinely think that like Techno and Philza like would go like the more comical route, because everything's like dark as shit right now, but then like they would probably like do that kind of like stuff where they're like, it's more a little more lighthearted, a little more cartoony, but still like serious in a way. So that would make sense. I mean,
the next prison stream, Quackity and Sam's head into the cell, the lava's lowering, it's empty. And then they just look in and see the tunnel they made through the toilet.
Just like Looney Tunes level shit. That would be cool.
God,
no, it's like if Foolish and Michael trying to break in and they're the ones who find out. That would actually be a really interesting twist if that's actually how they escape. Because knowing how like improvised the lore can be sometimes, it wouldn't actually be that surprising if Technoblade went to the prison and the writers actually hadn't decided how he was going to get out or how Dream was going to get out. They just had like a vague idea of, and then Technoblade and Dream escape prison. And then Foolish did the thing, digging into the prison. They decided, you know what if, and Foolish was like, you know how you guys don't know how to get out of prison yet? What if my character tries to break Dream out to get the money from a bounty being placed on him? And then Michael was like, oh, that actually sounds like a good way for me to get into the lore with your character trying to get me to help. Like, that would actually be pretty cool to happen.
It would be really, really cool to happen, but the DSMP writers are notoriously bad at communicating.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, I would love it if Michael could get some more lore stuff, but it is hard. Like, I think he said he feels like a guest more than a player.
If any of you are for some reason you're listening to this, any Dream SMP writers, look, in your Discord, make a channel, and whenever someone does lore, have them write stuff down in it and say what they did so that people know what's going on and can talk to each other, and then encourage people to talk to each other and plan stuff that they can do as lore together. That will solve like 50% of your writing problems, trust me.
Yeah.
Or you just make it up. Yeah. For the whole fic, just make it up. That's always
like I've done like roleplay stuff before, and some of the best stuff comes from when you just like sit down and you actually talk and say like, hey, I'm gonna do this with my character. Does anyone else want to like play into that with their own characters?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
like I think I think a big part of the problem is that it feels very daunting for newer content creators, newer members to hop into that major lore, and it doesn't really help that content creator Wilbur, I've heard that he's not very good at role-playing in like role-playing etiquette. He's a very good actor. He has his phenomenal streams. He comes up with absolutely fantastic plot lines, but he has trouble being flexible enough to incorporate other people's plot lines into his own ideas.
That was definitely a problem in season 1, so hopefully after he took a bit of a break for season 2 and a good chunk of season 3, he'll have improved a bit better in the situation, especially since everyone else has more experience with roleplay now and will be more confident about starting their own arcs.
That's what I'm hoping, but the stuff I read on Tumblr implies that this is still pretty recent.
Yeah.
Of him talking about how he wants other character stories to end so he can start his own. He suffers from having where like he wants things to be a surprise, and that's really hard to do in RP, especially if like you're writing a complex story. Like people will be like, oh, I want their surprise to be authentic, and it's like, well, you kind of have to make a lot of sacrifices, like plot wise, in order to do that. And it's like you could just not have that many like
honestly like I said, I've done roleplay before and I've felt that where you kind of want to keep stuff hidden even from the people that you're telling the story with.
It's like a balance. You can't be like, I don't know, like people think like people hate spoilers, and that's fair,
and it is a thing where it can often be hard to motivate yourself unless you have sort of the promise of, oh, I'll get to reveal this in the future. You feel like if you just tell people about it, you won't have the motivation to get the story to that point anymore.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, there's that element of surprise, sure, but at the same time, I feel like it doesn't help with the time differences because Michael streams super late at night when all of the quote-unquote main characters stream, including Rambo, because now that he's UK, are streaming very early in the day.
Yeah, everyone's schedules do not match up.
No, we've had that like prison thing that was supposed to happen weeks ago. Nope.
Yeah, there's like.
But yeah, it's.
Everyone just keeps being like, there's gonna be like lore. There's 12 lore streams, and I'm like, okay, where the hell are they?
Wilbur's done
he started them.
three of them.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, like, I was on holiday for like the last week and bit, and before I went, I was like, God damn it, I hope they don't do lore when I'm away, because it's gonna be so annoying. And then they just didn't do any lore at all. There was no lore. There was zero lore. I mean, no, there was a bit of lore. There was there's the thing with Punk and Foolish.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of lore, but it was just a crumb.
There's a lot of Punk lore.
I am
also obligatory Punk mention.
It's this thing with scheduling. Like, I think part of the reason why Michael's having trouble getting into lore is because all the people that pay attention and do big lore, they don't stream often, and when they do, it's always in the mornings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like people talk about Tommy. I don't know if it was character Tommy or content creator Tommy, but Tommy has talked about how no one's ever on the SMP anymore, and then he finds that the Beetroot Garden's gone. Like, who do you think destroyed it? But he says no one's on the SMP anymore, and my response is, that's because you are never on when other people are on, and vice versa.
Yeah.
That's actually why I think server reset sometime soon would actually be really helpful, in that the main motivation people have for coming onto the SMP, at least a lot of the people who've been there for a while, is just for lore, while people who join more recently also have the motive of, actually playing Minecraft, with a few exceptions, like people who like building stuff like Foolish, and who are able to have actual projects and goals. Like, there's a reason that Hermitcraft is such a long-running SMP series, and it's because the people who play in it are mostly builders, are people who work on large projects and large redstone farms and stuff that takes a lot of time but is very rewarding for people who like it, so they can go on for a long time without people getting bored of the server. And also because when it does start getting boring, they update the server and start all over.
Yeah.
And I think Dream SMP replaces the building with roleplay, but it's having the same problem where it needs to reset some aspects of it because it's kind of getting boring.
It's getting a little stale. I think...
Obviously, there's been the whole lore drive, but I think for the actual content creators themselves, going on the server has become more boring.
I think it's also because the expectation of, if you're going on the server, you're doing it to do lore and you're not just doing it to hang out.
Yeah, there's been a lot
fans and
happening. Stuff. It's just that, like, people are like, I don't know, they want to see
selective
more, like, I want to see more Tommy lore or something. I don't know. Like, that's how they think. Whereas, like, I don't know, Phil like went and changed the entire Leman crater to look completely different, which was wild. And then you got, like, the drama with, like, Punk, Foolish, and Sam still, like, ongoing. And just, like, occasional, like, and it isn't, like, small. I mean, it's, like, it's Punk's character growth. Like, there's all kinds of things he's been saying about all kinds of different characters. And he's, like, been doing things. And so...
I feel like just, like, the last, like, 7 months... have all basically just been set up.
Yeah. I mean, people take build-up for granted sometimes. Like, obviously, there probably is, like, a longer... Like, it's probably longer than they wanted it to be. Because, like, there's been a lot of, like, delays and different problems.
Like, between November 16th and the real start of the Season 2 block, there was, like, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The largest gap there was in Season 1, if you exclude the pre-Lemanberg stuff, was like a month. There were pretty regular big events, but now we've just had a very long period of occasional, like, spikes in lore, and then nothing, and then a spike of lore, and then absolutely nothing. So it doesn't really feel like a continuous plot line, and more a thing happening, and then nothing much more happens. Like, it doesn't feel as cause and effect as Season 2 did, where everyone was interconnected, and they were doing their own thing, but they also influenced everyone else. Well, now it feels more like there's the prison storyline, and there's the burger van storyline, and there's the And that's
Egg
not
arc.
a storyline. And technically they are connected, but they don't feel connected because they rarely interact with each other.
Because the people who go and play and do those arcs aren't on are like rarely on the server, and when they are on, they're not on at times other people can be on as well to go and interact with. Like,
and they often only go on for lore.
yeah, like they always go on specifically for lore. There's none of those. I'll be honest, I really like the beat farm bit. It was pretty fucking funny.
No, yeah, that was. I wish it stayed, but oh well, you know.
Yeah, I wish people continued it. But not enough people are on at the same time. Like, people are still on, they're just not there at the same time, so they can't interact with each other, so they can't develop their characters, etc., etc. They can't have all these cool
like, we
bits.
basically started this podcast with Lasana Bird.
Exactly.
I miss it.
Same.
Oh yeah, the same.
Oh, I think Foolish is told bad he's blown it up.
Oh, what the hell? Not the Sandberg. Nothing good last on this.
The egg finale better happen soon, because we were told it was happening soon, like 2 months ago now. It's gonna become a new Dream Lore stream.
I hope it's more egg lore. God,
no, it's gonna become like the new Elytra challenge.
Oh my god.
Where we're just waiting for it and waiting for it and waiting for it, and it just never happens.
Crackety solely Elytra.
That's what happens when you build a giant prison on the server. Everything just like, you know, everything just grinds to a halt, you know? Oh. I mean, like...
If you could...
Oh, you're good?
Yeah?
You're good. I don't know what I was gonna say. I was gonna start talking about Lost Nevadas just because I love Lost Nevadas so much, so...
Hey, go ahead.
I mean, I was basically just gonna say, like, I don't know, like, people, like, don't like the Lost Nevadas lore, but I'm like, dude, it's, like, other than, like, whatever the hell is going on with the egg, like, Lost Nevadas is, like, the most intriguing, like, lore, because it's just, like, people are like, oh, it's boring because it's pre-recorded. Okay, calm down. Like, it's not boring, you just have a weird bias when it comes to, like, pre-recorded versus like improv or whatever. It's like, nah, dude, Lost Nevada.
I don't think it's even.
They both have their merits.
I want to see like Lost Nevadas become like the entire idea of it to become like so villainous it's actually like a threat, because like there has never been a threat on the Dream SMP, not even Character Dream, not even like not Character Shot. Nobody has actually been a villain that is downright like, you are like, that person is freaking evil. Like, that person is willing to do anything. They're like meticulous, they plan, they like are ruthless, like they don't care, like they just want what they want, and they believe what they're doing might be good, or they might know it's bad, but they don't care. And it's like, that's what I want. Like, and people will be like, oh, well, it already happened. It's like, no, dude, I want like, there are some villains that like I've seen in media, like in like Netflix originals or like movies, that I'm like, this person is unequivocally like bad. Like, this dude, like you, like they look you in the eyes and they don't see you as a person level crap. Like, I want that on the Dream SMP. But like, we haven't gotten that. And it's like, I want Lost Nevadas to be downright fucking terrifying. Like, if the egg won't do it, Lost Nevadas will. Like,
no.
You're good, sorry.
I've heard people theorize that the reason it's not open yet is because the bank isn't ready, and honestly this is kind of frustrating if the only reason it isn't open yet and that the lore hasn't continued more is just because writer Sam keeps
getting distracted.
On building like, he'll start a stream and it'll be titled, "We're gonna work on the bank," and then 5 minutes later he's off doing something completely different.
That's just...
And apparently now he's talking about starting a new project, so he might have abandoned the bank entirely.
I know his work contract's ending or something like that, because he's like a coder, like a developer and stuff, so he'll have more free time to like actually work on it. But I honestly, like...
It's so funny.
See, like, I don't care about Minecraft mechanics, and like, there's this weird emphasis of people being like, they're diehard fans of like, it must adhere to the Minecraft mechanics, and I'm like, hell no, we're telling a story here. If we have to get suspension of disbelief, we have to get suspension of disbelief. I was like, if Lost Nevadas just has money and somehow they like, you know, make it work, even if it doesn't actually like, you know, like, it's like, you have to basically be like, yeah, there's a form of currency and nobody can get anything else, but clearly they can in Minecraft mechanics. but you have to just ignore that. Like, I'm willing to do that to get this freaking plot. Like, but people will just whine and be like, no, that's not how it works. It has to work within the Minecraft mechanics. It's like, okay, listen. Quackity did not build all of Las Nevadas, but having it where, like, you think he did, even though we know he didn't, like, that's, like, really fucking interesting. Like, that's why I'm, like, just freaking, like, the bank would be cool, but it would take so much work to make, like, they have mods and, like, plugins for money and, like, economies, but they're very, like, hard to set up because you can just go get diamonds and freaking netherite and crap and, like, have all these nice items. And Rambo even said it. He was like, what's the point? Like, why would you build a bank if we can just, like, get our own crap?
I think Sam's...
I mean, if they're doing a partnership thing, they could do something where the, whatever you win from the casino can only be, like, redeemed in the bank or something.
Yeah. There's gotta be, like, something, like, there's gotta be some incentive that's greater than, like, what they already have. Or they have to just get everybody addicted to gambling. Either one. I mean.
Sam... They've already got, like, 3 people. But I'm pretty sure Sam and Rambo have talked about this, actually, where Rambo's like, well, I could totally just go get a whole bunch of diamonds and totally crash the economy. And Sam's like, no, here's how, or, like, I can, like, name the diamonds or the iron pieces myself and crash the economy.
Yeah.
But then Sam goes, like, no, wait. That's the thing. You do that because I'm gonna create and sign books, and that's how we're gonna use. That's the currency we'll be using.
True. I'm trying to think, like,
and so that's how he's planning on getting around the whole. Can totally crash the economy with just a little bit of effort.
Yeah, because, like, you don't want it to be a situation where, like, you go, like, you know, mining for, like, gold, and then, like, suddenly you have more money that's in the entire bank. You know, that'd be wild.
Yeah.
It would just be hard, and people are they're obviously gonna complain and be like, oh my god, it's not realistic. Bro, it's freaking... Shut up. Like, I don't know how to say this nicely, but it is not realistic to have, you know, like, 2 dudes having the Cold War through freaking food joints, okay? Like, it's not realistic for a dude to come back to life because of a book. Like, calm down, okay? Like, sometimes stories, that's just how they are, man, and you just gotta go with it. Especially types of stories, like, that are role plays. Like, things are gonna happen. And they're not gonna be super realistic, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. Or you can leave. Either one. But... I don't know.
I think, like, part of the reason why the prison is actually the prison is actually, like, functionally within the world of Minecraft mechanics, a prison, and very difficult to get in and very, very difficult to get out, is because they don't trust the people of the DSMP not to try and do an exploit and break themselves in, like Foolish did with his tunnel before Quackity stopped him.
Yeah, that's actually impressive as hell. They managed to design a prison that, like, it itself is, like, without creative mode, obviously, it's just impossible to, like, get out of. Like, you can't, like, you were stuck there. They were like, we're gonna make this one authentic as we can, even though you know, Dream could log on and TP himself out, and he has, but it's, like, not within the plot. Like,
there is actually a small flaw in that the system for pistoning you from the bed doesn't work properly, so you could break the bed, but
if you die that's not canon. Crouch. Yeah, we saw that with Trista, and then we got to see that the bed is, like, right there.
No, true. Yeah, and, like, no one's, like, sitting there exploiting that, because that would just be boring. It would be like, okay, like, what? Great, cool. You found the exploit, man. Though, nah, everyone, it's just like, he's just staying in the prison. He's there. He's not chilling, but he's there.
Yeah.
I wish we got just, like, more, I don't know. I just want more, like, Sam and Quackity interaction. I'm like, they're just funny. They're just funny. Like, they're, okay, obviously, they're, like, doing really bad stuff, but they are just, like, funny in a way, because, like, they're just so goddamn dysfunctional. Like, with the whole purple UFO thing, like, I was like, dude, I want just log in and do this. That's it. Just do your weird, like, you know, business partnership crap, like, on the server. Just, like, being, like, cartoon villains. I just want more of that, please. Like, God. I mean, all the theories I've seen for what's gonna happen in the plot usually revolve around, like, Syndicate, you know, like, Dream joins the Syndicate when he gets out, or somehow like Tubbo bombs something with the nukes. The missing nuke, somehow Quackity has it. Like those kind of theories. I haven't seen anything like really wild recently. Because like I'm talking, Tumblr used to have theories that people would write that were just absolutely like, you were just like, you couldn't like disprove it, but like you were just like, that is a fucking insane theory. Like Rambu's from another world, like level, like we know he's from like the from the end or whatever.
He's probably from the end.
But they were talking like he's from like the future or some shit. Like he's a time traveler. And I was like, all right, man, that's wild. Like,
I think people put too much into Carl's lore and Tales from the DSMP because that really is. It's more casual in my eyes.
Yeah,
I find it more like.
I don't think it's strongly linked to any other lore. It's more just fun stuff with people who are on the DSMP and the occasional guest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I consider it as disconnected one-shots set in the same universe at different points in time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. Like, they're almost like little, AU one-shots. I think, like, when that was happening parallel to the plot is when people had more of those, like, theories that felt like they were like the dude standing at the red thread board and just like pointing and being like, I've connected the dots kind of stuff. But now that we don't have,
I'm interested in for later for later stuff because Ronbu was helping Carl with some stuff, and he definitely leans more towards sort of mystery and horror storytelling, which means that we're probably going to see more of that now that Carl has sort of left the in between.
Yeah.
And gone to the other side.
Still waiting on Space Race.
Will we ever get it?
So yeah, it's definitely like we're waiting for the sort of season 2 of Tales from the DSMP.
Yeah.
You guys ever think that the reason there has been such disconnect with the streams and the lore and whatever is because Dream's not there to bring everything together?
It's weird.
Ever since he got locked up in prison.
Like.
Oh wait, just to run back to Tales from the DSMP for a second. I do think part of the disconnect is that they've stopped doing them on the server itself. Because the first few, up to Mizu, I think, were all actually on the server and people built stuff. But after that, they started doing them on a separate server, so it doesn't feel as connected.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I guess for some of the larger builds, I suppose, it makes more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I just find it really insane. So you know the whole El Rapids fiasco?
Yeah.
Dethronement. Wait. I don't know. It was just there was just a whole bunch of shit that happened on one day, and Dream was at the center of all of it.
Oh, it just kept going.
It was a very busy day for him.
Like everything from that day of like lore is just beautiful because like it literally like you can trace things back to El Rapids. Like. Of course, everything goes back to, like, you know, like, Lomenberg, but El Rapids is, like, where things just, like, escalated. Like, everything after El Rapids is just, like, freaking... Like, it went from, like, being, like, yeah, this is, like, you know, this is a dark plot, to, like, this is a dark fucking plot. Like, and, like, this is, like, some serious, like, you know, like, socio-political, like, Minecraft drama right here. Like, this is legit. Because, like, everybody started to get involved after El Rapids. Like, and it's interesting that Quackity's at the center of it, because it's like, I mean, dude, I want to see more Quackity pitted against Dream. I want to see more of that. Because, like, the whole thing with, like, them having, like, that hour-long discussion, and, like, just back and forth, like, and, like, also the fact that Quackity did asked Dream to be the vice president, like, that was, like, his little, like, secret hero on the block. Bro, just, like, thinking about El Rapids, I'm like, I want this again. Like, I want to see these two pitted against each other. Two bad bitches, pit them against each other. Like, let's fucking go.
I'm a bad bitch, you can't kill me.
Like, maybe I'm just, like, you know, maybe people don't want that. Maybe they're like, oh, no, I don't want, like, you know. But it's like...
Yeah, but, like, it's funny because Dream himself doesn't really cause conflict, but he still ends up as a source of conflict anyways because of everyone else's reaction to him. He tries
to preemptively prevent conflict, which is causing conflict in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
It's a conflict paradox.
Like he said, I don't cause problems, I try to fix them.
It's like that.
But now that he's in prison, there's like... I wouldn't say there's no conflict, obviously, because there is still conflict, but the conflict also ends up feeling a lot more disconnected now, because there's not this one person jumping around to everybody's streams and getting himself involved in everybody's conflicts.
Yeah, like, because to a degree, like, people, like, there is that merit of, like, yeah, you know, like, if you're trying to stop conflict before it can, like, really start, you kind of almost end up starting it because you just keep getting involved. Like, you are going to every person, every tiny, like tiny little escalation and just being like, okay, we gotta stop this. And then, like, unintentionally, it just fucking blows up even worse, and you're like, oh god. Like, that's literally, that's why, like, Dream being in the prison, like, we haven't seen, like, anything, like, really, like, X-Punch take off, because somehow it was always, like, Dream showing up, and then somehow Tommy would get involved. And I was like, why? Like, it just would get worse, and it would just freaking snowball, like, into, like, a massive issue, and you were like, god damn it, like, and everyone was like, you know, they were just all getting involved.
Yeah, like, it's very funny, because even though he doesn't cause conflict, but his very presence on the server makes people want to cause shit with him.
Yeah, because it's like, when someone comes and tells you, like, don't do a thing, like, a lot of people's instant thing is to just get defensive. So then, if the person keeps going with it, then you're gonna, like, dig your heels in harder and be like, no, I didn't do that thing, I'm not gonna do that, I'm not gonna listen to you, like, literally just El Rapids, like, as an entire example.
Yeah.
It's just wild. That's why it's like,
also,
if he gets out...
I miss Mamacita.
Oh my god, no. Dude, when will she return from the war, you know? Like, when will she come back?
I know.
But it's wild to think of, like, what will happen, like, when Dream, like, leaves the prison. Like, I want to think he will. I don't think they're gonna do the thing where he just stays in there until, like, the server reset or something. Like, that would be wild. But I really, like...
That would be so depressing.
Like, I'm in two different boats. I'm like, you know, I don't see him, like, you know, going and, like, starting a bunch of crap, because, like, what would be the point? Like, there's a very high merit for him, like, going to the Syndicate and joining them, and doing whatever, you know, like, trying to, like, stop, you know, tyrants like Lost Nevadas and crap. But there's also, like, part of me that's like, man, if he just got out and was like, he just was like, I'll just make everything worse, I don't care, like, these people, like, I owe them nothing, and then just went absolutely apeshit. Like,
it's the character Dream apologist conflict. Like, when half of you just wants him to, like, go back to blowing shit up, and the other wants him to have, like, a nice little healing arc. I mean, he can have both. He can have both.
He both has a treat.
It's that two wolves.
Like, start off with, like, healing arc with the Syndicate, and then Wilbur comes along and they blow stuff up together, and then he gets, like, a proper redemption arc. That's
I
good.
want
You
Wilbur
get
to stay
a nice
the
mix.
fuck away from Dream. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I want him to stay the fuck away from Dream.
Another interesting thing I really want to see, even though it would be absolutely the most wild thing ever, is just Wilbur and Dream interacting. Like, it would be so interesting. It would be just the coolest thing to just, like, see them interacting in, like, the lore. After, like, all of this, dude. I know, like, it would just absolutely, probably would just end up in, like, the destruction of the server somehow, but it would just be cool as hell. Because they're just, like, so, like, the way that, like, they just kind of, like, play off of each other isn't, like, it's really interesting. So, also, like, all of the stuff that, like, Wilbur's, like, caught being like, I'm jealous of Dream because, you know, he got his comeuppance and he's, like, you know, he is the bad guy, and, like, you know, I'm stuck in limbo, I'm in bad guy limbo, and I'm like, Wilbur, calm the hell down, like, Jesus. And then, like, he'll just... Sorry.
Yeah, I find the idea that Wilbur's gonna be upset that Dream got tortured kind of strange, because, yeah, sure, Dream got tortured, very bad, terrible, wouldn't wish it on anyone, but at the same time, Wilbur's not exactly doing anything to get Dream out of prison, even though he's like, yeah, Dream got his comeuppance and now he's stuck in prison. I am not gonna do shit, I just want to meet him and leave him in there for later. Like, I don't think Wilbur particularly cares about Dream's safety as a person,
No, he's just like, he's almost like idolizing him, but like in a way that's not like, it's not like hero worship. It's almost like he's just has this idea in his head, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's just sitting there like
Twisher.
Yeah, he's just like, oh my god, he's like, you know, he's so cool. Oh my god, he's so great. I would have gutted him, but he's so cool. He's so great. Like, he actually just, that's actually how he goes and like flip flops and talks to people. It's just.
Oh yeah.
Wilbur's great.
Mm-hmm. He's a really interesting character, and I feel like he ends up misinterpreted a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, I definitely
People like
think
to wooify
that
him.
he made the member for power, because it's definitely supported with what like writer Wilbur had said about him.
Yeah.
But like I was stuck for a while on like why, but Apple actually recently suggested a pretty interesting idea that essentially his mental health wasn't great before he even got on the server, and his idea was that if he got power, essentially it would help him like get better, but it didn't work, and that factored into his spiral later on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're trying to like, a lot of times when you're like mentally ill, the whole thing is like, a lot of it has to do with like, a lot of people try to fix it like with control, because you're like, because any small thing that happens and you have like, you know, mental illness, it throws you like completely out of like whack. So like, if Wilbur arrived to a server very mentally ill like already, and he saw that like, you know, like in his mind was like, if I impart control, which is in itself a type of power, then like, you know, it will be better because like it will be like stable and good, and we'll have this like, you know, and
a sense of security.
Yeah, he didn't have to like sit down and be like, ooh, if I make a country, like I will be the most powerful man in the world. Like, no, he just kind of was like, it just happened like that, you know, he was going to greater and greater lengths to try to like get that power, to get that control. Because that's why he was like, you know, rigging the election basically, because he was like, I have to win.
I don't think it was as much about control for Wilbur. I think that's more of like a dream thing. I think for him, it's more about like being seen as a hero, as like a good guy, and his enemies as evil tyrants.
Yeah, but like, yeah, you know, you're not wrong.
So he goes against figures of authority.
Yeah, and in a way, like, he has this weird dichotomy with like hero and villain. Like, everyone has to fit neatly in to a degree, and like he has to fit himself into it, and he's walking like, you know, like right now he's walking the line of like, nobody actually ever fits those categories. They're not like, they're kind of like, they're real but they're not, and it's weird because like, in a way you do have to like, it's, I don't know, have a better word than control, but you have to like somehow change people's opinion of you to make you fit that narrative.
I think that's about us for time. But yeah, fun discussion.
We didn't actually get to the prediction part.
No, he's just...
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty, goodbye!
Hey guys, I'm catching you at the end of the episode this time. Isn't that a twist? Speaking of twists, we've got a content creator for this week's Mellohi Spotlight that is amazing at them. In case you didn't know, this Spotlight section is our way of bringing more of the wonderful fan content creators in the community to the attention of our audience, whether that's an artist, a writer, a theorist, or an analyst. We know that a big part of what makes the Dream SMP fandom unique is how many talented individuals we have who contribute to bringing the world of the Dream SMP to life, beyond that of a simple block game roleplay. This week, we have a writer for our Spotlight, which means that I'm finally living up to my word that we do spotlight writers. So, let's talk about Chris, or Chrysalism. They are an archive of our own writer of truly epic proportions that is pretty well known for their Dream SMP AU series, Young God. If you haven't read it or heard of it before, then you need to check it out right away. Young God is an AU series based around Dream, who is the admin and almost sort of demigod figure of the SMP, with the gift of an extremely strong empathy ability. Hiding his status and abilities from his friends and the other members of the SMP, he seeks to basically keep the entire server from going under and dying out, as well as to just generally help his friends without them finding out about his powers or his status. It's a very heartwarming series in a lot of ways, and if you ever wanted a story where the Dream SMP characters all were actually friends and got along, but there was still lots of angst and sadness and hurt comfort, then it's definitely a high recommendation. Chris has a really wonderful artistic style to their writing, with descriptions of emotions and feelings that make a beautiful word painting about each character's feeling, and leave their work with an almost ethereal sort of aesthetic to it. If you want to go cry over block game roleplay characters, then you can check out Chris at Chrysalism, which is CHRYZALISSM, on Twitter and AO3. Before we get back to the episode, if you have any content creators that you think deserve the spotlight, make sure to let us know by either dropping a comment below or going to our Twitter page. The more amazing content creators you share with us, the more amazing content creators we can share with everyone else. Talk to you later!
Well, thanks for listening to the 15th episode of Mellohi, and we hope you enjoyed it. If there's any topic you'd like to hear us discuss, feel free to leave a comment or find us on Twitter at Mellohi Podcast, where you can also ask those questions or just get updates about new episodes. See you next time!